Hey guys, welcome back. This part here, or this video here, is to talk about the credit card accounts tab and how that would work for you guys. And this one here just means that it's the place that you use to set up your credit cards within the system here. And this tab here will allow you to set up all the way up to 4 different credit cards. And really, all you have to do is provide it the information that it needs to understand about your credit card so that when you do enter your credit card transactions, it will put the amounts in the correct month. And I'll show you an example of that in a couple of minutes in terms of what I mean by that. So let's take a look at setting up one of the credit cards here. And I'm going to set up the one that I've got here, which is the Visa credit card. So in this box here, I'm just going to type in the name of the credit card, so Visa. The next thing that you should provide is what is its current balance. So when you start using this spreadsheet and or at the beginning of every year, um, what you want to do is just enter in what your current balance is. So to do that, all you have to do is log into your credit card account, usually by a website. You might even have an app on your phone, and just take a look at what the current total amount is that has been charged to your card. So let's say that up to now I've had about $100 that have already been accumulated on my card. So I'll type in $100 here, and I will say that that is as of today. So let's say October 19th. And so I've got that set up. So now it knows that whenever you enter credit card transactions or new ones, it will say, well, the total amount that you owe is whatever you enter as a transaction plus this $100 that you already had accumulated up to now. And that's how it can tell you at any point in time what is the current balance of your credit card. The payment grace period is typically about 21 days, and really what that means is once your credit card statement is due at every month, so usually there are 1 month periods, and you usually have an end date for your period, and I'll show you that in a second. The payment grace period is the number of days that you have thereafter to pay your credit card to be on time and not incur any interest charges. It's usually 21 days. I've got 3 or 4 credit cards that I use on a regular basis, and that they're all based on that 21 days, more or less a few days, but usually that's somewhere around there. So you can type in 21 here. The next thing that it wants to know is your statement periods, which is each period is usually for 1 month, and they have a begin date and an end date. And as you can see in this form here, really all I need to know is the beginning date of your first period in a year, because then it calculates everything else. So let's drag over here an example of my statement at the beginning of this year, which was, excuse me, in January. And so you can see the most important part to be able to fill out the statement period section is to take a look. Somewhere on your statement, usually on the first page, you'll have something called statement period, and it will give you a from date and then a to date. And that's really what I'm interested in having for the spreadsheet. And so here, if I take a look at my statement period at the beginning of the year, you can see that it started in December of last year and then ended in January of this year. So I'll take this December 11th, 2019, and I'll put that right into here, this begin date. And that's exactly what I typed in. And as you can see, once that date was entered, it calculated the end date by adding a month to it. And so it came to January 10th in this case, just like on the statement period. And then it added here automatically for the maximum payment date, it added 21 days to that. So January 10th plus 21 gives you a payment date of January 31st for the year. And then what it wants to know, so let me just dismiss this. What it wants to know is when do you typically pay your credit card? And in here, it's going to try, you can see there's a formula there. It's going to try and figure out what that is. And usually it tries to keep it within the same month and default to it. But sometimes you can see here in the second case where I've got this question mark, you can see that February 10th, add in 21 days to that. It gets you a little into March, and now it wants to know, well, when are you going to pay that? Are you going to pay that in March, or are you going to pay that in February? And in my case, what I try and do is I like to keep things all within the same month as much as possible. So all I have to do here is go pick this drop down and tell it in which month you're going to pay it. So for example, here I'm going to pay this in February. And the minute I select February, you can see that the red highlight has gone and it's replaced it by this text here. Now, before I continue with the rest, let me just show you an example of what I mean by that, by these payment months. If I go to a credit card or to my credit card transactions and I add a new one in, and I say, for example, the date where I did my transaction was on January 12th of this year, you can see automatically this payment month, it switched it to February. And that's because the way you've got it set up in your credit cards, it looked at this table of begin and end for Visa and it said January 12th. Okay, so January 12th falls between this begin date and that end date. And he says that he's going to pay that in February. And that's why in this sheet here, it put the payment month to February. And so this all goes to what we call cash flow. Because when you do a credit card transaction, as you guys know, that doesn't come straight out of your bank account. It only comes out of your bank account when you decide to pay it. And so that's why you have this payment month column here. And it says in February. So it will show up as a February expense in your summary calculations when it takes a look at your budget versus the reality and when you spent your money, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we have this column here called the payment month. So I'm just going to quickly go through here. March, yep, that's okay. You can see in April it went into the 1st of May, so I'm going to keep that in April. May is okay. June here, I'm going to go ahead and say that's June. July is okay. August is okay. October, let me go and say that that is going to be paid in September. And then for October, I'm fine. In the November timeframe, I'm going to go ahead and put that to November. I've got this last one here set to next year, just in case you have a situation where your credit card begin and end date, let's say your end date here was somewhere like December 20th or December 25th. Well, then 21 days later is into January of the next year, and you're likely going to pay it next year. So that's why I put the payment month here, one of the possibilities as being next year. And that just means that when the spreadsheet calculates all of your expenses, it will actually not take that into account, these ones here, because those are next year expenses. In other words, it's going to come out of your bank account next year instead of this year. But in this case here, December 10th, I've got till December 31st, so I'm going to go ahead and put that to December like that. Now what I'm going to do here, just to complete this, I'll just do one or two other credit cards just to show you how that works. So I did Visa. Let's go and do my Amex card, 21 days, same thing. Let's say started out with a $100 balance as of today. So let's say October 19th again. And this time around for my Amex, when I go to see my statement, in this case for the Amex, it actually starts December 17th. So I'm going to type in December 17th of 2019 like that. And you're going to see everything got readjusted. So in January. And so what I'm going to go do here is just go quickly put this in January, February, March, and then keep going. Okay, so I just fast forward here and completed out the Amex. And the last one that we're going to do here is my MasterCard Costco card. Again, I'll leave that at 21 and let's say same thing. Balance as of today, let's say October 19th. right? And in the case of my Costco card, it actually starts in December of 2019 also. So, but in this case, it actually starts December 25th of 2019. And so we've got all the dates that got calculated. And so again, I'm just going to go ahead and readjust that because it's going to happen in each one of these months. So January, I'll pay it there. Same thing for February, so forth. Okay, and there you go. So I've got them all completed. And these are all set now for each one of my three main credit cards. You may have more, by the way. I would suggest that you put in the main ones. You typically should have one or two main ones. Sometimes you'll get a credit card for a specific kind of store. Um, and in that case, that will be the same kind of expenses all the time. So it could be a credit card for a clothing store, in which case you don't really have to create a credit card for it here because all you need to do is enter your transaction as if it were another kind of regular credit card transaction, and it will record that in there also. And we'll see how to do that a little bit later. So that's it for the credit card accounts. And so I'll see you in the next video. Oops, one last note, forgot to mention. Once this is set, just be aware that if you decide for some reason to go back here in the languages and change your language from English to French, one thing that you'll want to go check and do is to come back to your credit cards and change these, because as you can see, wherever you didn't make a change, like set it, the formula has changed it to French, right? You can see janvier instead of January. But wherever you have manually set this, it is still in English. So you might have a situation where you've got payment months that are in French and or English. So if you've changed your language, just go back here and now you'll see your pick list will have adjusted to the appropriate language. So you would just go in here and change that to février instead of February. And you need to do that just so that it understands now in your transactions tab to put it correctly. See, février is now set correctly. If I had gone back and left that to what it was before, then in the transactions, it would still be written February, and your totals would not be okay because it would be looking for totals for février instead. So just be aware of that. It's a very simple thing. Uh, this should not really happen because usually you don't go back and forth in your languages once you've chosen your language up front. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. But I just thought I'd mention that in case you do go ahead and do that. Just something to watch for. So I'll come back here and change that now back to February. All right, there you go. Thanks, guys.